Hello, hello, hello. It's Holly Rustick here with Grant Writing and Funding. I'm really excited to have a good friend back on the show again, Michael Thatcher from Charity Navigator, the owner and founder, and they do a lot of really cool things for nonprofits. And, our program, we actually use it as freelance grant writers to find ideal clients as well. I didn't know if you knew that, but we love your platform. We love looking there and seeing what nonprofits and that you already give them leadership scores and different types of scores, your 4 pillars. And we're able to really say, okay, hey, we can find leads here. So I love that so much. So welcome back, Michael. Welcome back.
Thank you, Holly. I'm really happy to be here. And it's I love learning new ways that the platform gets used. And I think this one I wasn't aware of. So I like that. Thank you.
We love it. Yeah. And it's great because, you have the vetting there, for lack of a better word, but like you have like where you go through and you really look at nonprofits and you really see what they're doing and you have different scores, right? So you can kind of see where they're at in different areas. So before we get into it, just quickly explain what Charity Navigator is for folks out there who might not know, and then we're going to dive into some really, really like good stuff. So we're going to get into it. We're going to see what you guys are doing with all of the things that are going on in 2025. But just so our listeners understand what we're talking about.
So in brief, I think Holly, Charity Navigator is right now we're the nation's largest independent evaluator of nonprofits. We have ratings on about 240,000 nonprofits, and we also get roughly about 10 million individual visits to our site every year. We create curated lists. We create funds. So that's actually something new I can talk about. We have funds per cause area or per situation. And we also have an alert system which lets donors know when something inappropriate has happened or there's the perception of something inappropriate. So it's either real or perceived. And we do this, we are ourselves a nonprofit. And we do this for free. We don't charge the charities and we don't charge the donors. We're primarily set up, and our mission is to make impactful giving easier for all. And so we're really trying to, as I like to say, what you care about is none of my business, but it's my business to find you the best nonprofit that'll actually address that need.
I love that so much. And so you have a lot of things going on. That's awesome. What is the funds exactly that you're talking about, the new thing? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. So we're calling it, it's called Causeway, and Causeway launched in September of last year. And what it was essentially, think of almost like a mutual fund where you would have a fund. We have a fund that we partnered with 1% for the planet. So it's environmentally focused. We have a fund, 2 funds, which have actually gotten more attention recently. We have a global poverty fund and we have a global health fund. The way the fund is set up, we actually have a dedicated fund manager and list manager right now at Charity Navigator. The donor says they want to do something about global poverty. They make a donation to the fund. Within that fund, there'll be about a dozen nonprofits. Mm-hmm. The allocations are not necessarily equal. It's really very much like a mutual fund. The fund is managed and updated on a quarterly basis. The other piece that's new for us, and we're just in the process of launching the first set of reports, is we're going to be issuing impact reports. So you understand, how did my investment in the fund actually, did it make a difference in the world? And so I think there are kind of 2 prongs to why we did this. One was we've noticed particularly within 2 very distinct demographics. One, younger generations care less about organization name and they care more about the cause. There's a little bit of brand fatigue. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end, people working on their last will and testament, they often care about specific causes, but let's say they're 60 years old when they're writing their will and they're planning to hang around for another 20, 30 years, which we would all hope. They don't know whether the organization they pick at 60 is going to be good by the time they actually pass. And so the idea of having a fund that actually focuses in on the causes they care about seems to be a great legacy product right now that we're working on with some of the different will providers.
Wow. No, that's huge. That's huge. I love that so much because you're right. It's like, and especially like, oh, I don't know if I should give to this one, like, oh my gosh, that's so. And do these funds then, are they like kind of traditional funds where they are getting like interest on it, compounded, anything like that? Is there any type of matching ability there?
No, and that's actually where the analogy fails because we don't hold
Ah,
on to money, right? When
you
you,
give
let's
it,
say when
you give it.
you give $100, and what we're hoping for with the funds also is getting people to invest like with monthly donations. So you'd
Mm-hmm.
subscribe to the Global Poverty Fund
Mm-hmm.
and you would make, $10, $100, whatever the monthly is that you can actually sustain. That gets distributed at time of donation through our provider. So we have a back end giving basket provider called Give Lively. They
Mm-hmm.
receive the money and then they do the distribution within 30 days of actually receiving the gift.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah.
I wonder though, like, yeah, if you could have like a very wealthy donor to come in and match anything that's raised as well as part of a campaign, that would be really cool. To see that.
If you've got a couple of those wealthy donors you want to send my way, I'm all ears, right?
Hey, they might be
So,
listening right now or watching. So there you go.
no,
I mean, that's a
but
great legacy. Yeah, yeah.
but think about it. That's actually, one of the things we've thought about is how do you incentivize giving?
Hmm.
And you have, if someone has, let's say, they have a significant amount of money and they want to put $10,000 or $100,000 towards a specific cause as a match incentive for other donors, that can be incredibly powerful. And we do occasionally experiment with that with some of our large donors, and we'll run a campaign which is, the collection of the board campaign. We do those for Charity Navigator, but there's no reason we can't do those for the causes, and I think that's got real benefit.
Yeah, I love that. And I know because it's always been like, even on the telethons, like, they let a company will call in and they'll be like, in this hour, if somebody gives, 500, this company will match it or this person will match it. And I always thought that was so clever because it does inspire giving because you're like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
my $500 or my $100 or my $10 can be doubled, like, so it feels more powerful to give for sure. But I love that you were doing
Yeah.
that. And operating that because I can see both sides to that demographic as you're talking about as well. Like, even me, like, not quite 60 there yet, but coming up and thinking ahead of like what legacy looks like, right? Yeah, I want to give more as well and to look at what that would, be like. So yeah, and if you guys ever funnel it through grants, let us know. Yeah.
I'll make a quick plug for creating a will, just because, in other words, most
Yeah.
of us, you write the will for an unexpected situation, right? And we all, no matter who we are and what we are, we have something that, and they're probably people we'd love to leave it to. And
Yeah.
if something,
Mhm.
unexpected happens, it's nice for the people left behind to be able to know what you wanted, because otherwise
Yeah.
it's hard, you know.
Well, the whole thing
And
with Bill
it's
Gates too. Have you been following that?
Oh yeah,
He's spending
yeah,
down early, right? And I was reading his interview and I was like, okay. And he was talking about like, I want to be able to direct where my money goes now. There's going to be more rich people in the future giving money. Like, it's like, I just want to direct mine. I don't want it to be people arguing about where it goes way after I'm dead.
yep.
And I was like, okay. So
I,
yeah,
I
no, you're right though. The will is important because, we all going to face that. We all going to
yes.
face that at some time. Yeah.
We have there are a couple of things. I'll give you a couple of things on the Charity Navigator platform that a lot of people don't know about. And in sort of giving options, we have a partnership with Free Will, which
Mm.
is exactly what the name that it is.
They
And
do
if
free
you
will?
go, they do free wills, and
Wow.
it's actually a really cool, almost like a wizard that kind of walks you through the different processes. You can access it from the site. It also helps you set up charitable leave behinds. So, in other words, that's part of why we've been
Oh,
working with
yeah,
them. But our
yeah.
partnership with them basically gives you go to Charity Navigator, you can write your will and get one, and get one for free.
Wow.
We're also doing work with Grapevine that helps people find giving circles. And that's
Oh,
also a new area in giving that I think is really interesting, is where you get small communities of people that care about a specific cause area, and they'll pool their resources to make a bigger impact.
Mhm.
and Grapevine facilitates creating an online kind of like a meetup that's actually virtual, right? So
I
that's
love
the idea with
that.
that. And then
I've
the
seen
last
some of
one,
those
yeah,
too.
yep,
Yeah, I'm like, those are
they're
really
cool.
cool.
They're
Yeah.
cool. The last one is we're working with Golden Volunteer on actually helping people find volunteering opportunities around the cause areas close to them, either geographically or virtually. And I
Hmm.
think it can be, that's a really great way of deepening your philanthropy in terms of,
Yeah.
when you engage with the cause, you actually know it and feel it, and you're actually going to be more likely to want to do more with that. And it can be really
Hmm.
meaningful.
And you're right, like it builds community. Like I'm thinking of my philanthropy is like serving on a board and you know what I mean? Like giving and
Yeah.
all of that. And when you do that, like some of my best friends are from serving on a board. Like there's something deep and very meaningful when you connect with someone on a values based level
Yeah.
of you're all there and you're all there to see some change, you know? So it's like, wow, or just some, some impact, right? So good.
But
I like that you're doing it
yeah,
virtually.
and just on that, I mean, it's you got to be careful because sometimes serving on a board can change your life. And I'm saying that sort of smiling because I was on the board of an organization that called Keystone Accountability that was looking at feedback practices as a means of measuring the impact of programs in the social space. And that's how I found out about Charity Navigator. And the guy that was running Keystone knew my predecessor at Charity Navigator. And when he left, said, "Hey, they're looking for someone with a tech background at Charity Navigator. Maybe you want to go do this." And as I said, be careful. Your volunteering work can suddenly turn into a full-time job.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, like I've
Yeah.
also gotten clients because I serve on a board because in networking, like, you know what I mean? Like it's a
Yep.
full, like when you follow your values, I feel like so much changes in your life for the
Yeah.
positive, for the good,
100%.
good things.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Totally agree.
So let's get into this. Okay, so I want to talk more about kind of like segue here into you talked about volunteers, individuals giving. What does it look like in 2025? Are people? I kind of feel like here's my and let me know if I'm correct because
Mhm.
also I don't know, but I feel like what I've been seeing, and let me know if you're seeing this too. A lot of people are starting to give a little bit just because it's their form of advocacy right now. They may feel like nothing they can control right now because everything going on and it's moving so fast. But I feel like a form of activism is actually giving. And if it's not, I'm going to preach it right now. That can be your form of activism. But Michael, tell me, what are you guys seeing? What are you seeing? Tell me the data.
So
Because
on
data
that,
never
yeah,
lies.
sure. The data confirms what you're saying. People are
Yay!
definitely giving to the causes they care about, and they're giving more.
Mhm.
And so we did two different chunks of analysis. The first was we were looking at the first 100 days of the new administration. So basically from January 20th to April 29th, and then compared that to the exact same period last year. And on our, I didn't mention this specifically, but we have a giving platform. And so there's roughly about $50 million dollars a year that goes through Charity Navigator to other nonprofits. And so
Mhm.
that gives us a little bit of a barometer as to who's giving what and how much.
Mhm.
And their percentage numbers are pretty significant. So causes
Oh,
that got a lot of money were Ukraine, 860% increase to Nova Ukraine, 779% increase to Razom for Ukraine. You
oh.
also had in, let's say, like 350, 100% increase in giving to different areas focused on either earth justice, biodiversity, close to 100% increase in giving to gender and also LGBTQ, also reproductive health charities, all up around 100% in terms of
Wow.
actual dollars to these organizations. So those are clearly areas that are seen to be underserved and where people are actually speaking with their wallets.
Well, and like explicitly in the some of the more popular EO's executive orders that were targeted as well. So
Oh
that
yeah,
is like you could see that data reflected there too, I think, right? So
100%.
yeah, that makes sense. Wow. So okay, so people are giving more, which is good,
Yep.
and there's giving more dollars coming into these certain causes. What other data are you seeing as far as anything 2025?
I mean, I think the sort of the elimination of U.S. aid
Mm-hmm.
and some of the federal funding cuts to areas of research and work within the United States, that has a really significant ripple effect because the reality is about 30% of US nonprofits receive some form of government money,
Yeah.
whether it's directly from the federal government or downstream through state, city, and local governments. And of those, it can be anywhere from 10% to 100% of their funding. So, needless to say, nonprofits are struggling. Many are letting go of staff. Where, in terms of actual giving and some counterbalancing, we created a list which was of the highly rated organizations that were affected by the USAID removal. And we've seen a lot of, we've seen probably over $500,000 going to a lot of these different organizations, with about 172% increase in giving to these specific sets of organizations that were very focused on international work.
Mhm.
But the reality of some of the changes coming from the government has resulted in about 20,000 jobs lost in the United States within the
Wow.
nonprofit sector. So that's a big hit. And I
Yeah.
think worldwide it's in significantly larger numbers. And the number I have, which is 175,000 jobs lost worldwide.
Wow.
This is coming from USAIDstopwork.com. That was the source for that. But
Mhm.
big changes, right?
Mhm.
One other change that I think we're finding as an anomaly in terms of donations to Charity Navigator, and that is a significant increase in anonymous donations. So I'm very curious how other
Mhm.
nonprofits are seeing that, because
Yeah.
I love Anonymous, my favorite donor right now, because they've really come in very, very strong this year. But it's
Mhm.
hard to cultivate them, and it's hard to
Right.
engage with them on and sort of develop a real relationship with an anonymous donor. And so that's a tricky one for us. The other place that may be growing from, which we've also seen a big increase in what other nonprofits are telling us, but what we're seeing ourselves, is donations through donor advised funds. So donor advised funds are definitely on the rise right now. And
Okay.
so if you're, it's worth making sure, this is a plug for every nonprofit out there, make sure you're signed up for ACH transfers from all of the big DAFs out there. Don't
Yeah.
miss that opportunity and wait a month for a check. You want the
Yeah.
money now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing that more even in our excuse me, in our research and our grant research. Like, because we look at 990s, we look at all the things, we look at giving, right? And it's like, okay, these are a lot. Actually, this is a DAF. Like, you know what I mean? So it's quite interesting to see that increasing. And just going back to your anonymous giving. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I could see there's a lot of fear right now. There's a lot of things. People are scared to like be vocal sometimes, right? Or they just don't want to be, which is fine. But yeah, I didn't think like that also impacts the ability to build relationships, which is difficult too. So yeah, that's very interesting. And I know, like, even in the political landscape, you guys have, I've been seeing you on LinkedIn, you've been joining with other AFP, a lot of other organizations to kind of come together as a collective. Yeah, can you talk about more of that advocacy that we're seeing more in
Sure.
front and center with y'all?
And I think this is something that's happened, it's really over the last couple of years. One, we've always been fairly active in engaging with the IRS, primarily
Mhm.
because we are one of the primary consumers of the IRS Form 990.
Okay.
It's a little bit the backbone and sort of all the practical information we need for the nonprofit ratings. We're also, I just make a plug here, it's only one part of the rating. So if you haven't given us information for the other beacons and the other pillars of whether leadership and adaptability, impact and measurement, or culture and community, please do so, because it really helps tell a better story about what you do and how effective you are and how healthy you are as an organization.
Yeah.
But so we've advocated, and we did a lot of work with the IRS. For example, the IRS stopped publishing 990s for over a year during the COVID period. And so that's continued, and we've been working with them. I'm a little worried about the IRS because they've also had funding cuts and not sure how we figure as a sector within their work. Also, there's some new laws that are affecting giving platforms, particularly California's AB 488, which is, it was created without the voice of the giving platforms. So there's some awkwardness to the bill, and it was implemented in a rather strong way that has been very difficult for organizations to keep up with. So I mentioned we have an advisory system, which is an alert system, which really lets people know when something inappropriate or something's out of compliance. On average, our alert system carried about 500 alerts across the full 1.6 million available universe in the nonprofit sector. It goes beyond who we rate. It's just based on our awareness of something happening within an organization. That list has shot up to over 30,000 since the California AB 48. A lot of it is a signature's in the wrong place or the filing came in late. So it's minimal stuff, but it's significant in terms of you are not legally allowed to donate to that organization when they're out of compliance in California, or, if it's a California charity or you are a Californian, you're blocked from giving by the Attorney General's office. Whoa. And needless to say, all of the platforms have to take them down. And our ability to take down for one state versus all states is compromised right now. We weren't ready. Nobody was ready for this. And so it ends up blocking giving altogether. And so I would say that was a wake-up call to me about 2 years ago, saying we've been missing an action here. Our voices need to be heard in the formation of laws that affect our work. And that's pure advocacy. Yeah. And needless to say, it's added cost to our work, right? Because I don't have staff that's skilled in this. I have some experiences from my past life, so I'm doing it now. We also don't have money to pay for external consultants to do this for us. The other area, more bringing it into 2025, we're still involved in the work with California, but also the federal government and the tax bill that has just gone through the House. That's where we raised our voice, also sort of highlighting things. The one thing I want to say, I want to start with there's really good news that in what went through, in that there is the inclusion of a charitable act, which basically will allow every individual the right to take a donation on their charitable gifts. Right now, it's not a very high amount. It's set to $150, $300 for couples filing jointly. But that's a really important first step. We're now, because up until now, with the tax changes from 2017, the Jobs Act, it's essentially reduced itemizers to about, I think it's 7.5% of the nation itemizes. I think I've got that number right. Small. And that's tiny, right? So nobody else is getting a tax break on their gifts. And so this brings that back. What's not so good about the bill, and the other thing about the bill was there was a provision in there which had an elimination, that had this, it was an anti-terrorist provision that provided for Treasury to revoke nonprofit status without due process. And the without due process that had everyone concerned, right? Because there needs to be due process, right? Otherwise, things suddenly become partisan, and we don't want that. The beauty of our sector has been its nonpartisan nature. Yeah. So what's still concerning in the tax bill, probably the most concerning for me at this point, is what was passed by the House will include an increase in tax rate to foundations. So it's based on, the base rate was 1.39% for foundations over $5 billion in assets. It's gone up to 10%. And so what that's going to do, unfortunately, is really hurt their ability to put money into the sector. And the irony in this is, with the federal cuts to vital services, you've had many of the mega foundations stepping up and putting more money into the sector.
Yeah.
And now that ability to actually supplement what the government had taken away is being compromised or taken advantage of. So it's a little bit, that's challenging. And I think that I hope there will be some modification to that when this bill goes through the Senate. There are a few other areas, both around corporate giving, individual giving, and then the tax rate on endowments with major universities. All of these have gone up. I think what was calculated was that the resulting impact of this new bill is the extraction of about $50 billion from the nonprofit sector, which unfortunately we just don't have it. It's
And then there's cuts to the federal grants. So it is going to be a struggle, right? And it is going to be a way to redefine how they operate.
Yeah, and the challenge that we often don't talk enough about is we're looking how this affects the donor. We're looking how it affects the nonprofit doing the work. But what about the end beneficiary that's no longer getting that service?
Yeah.
Isn't getting the after school programs, isn't getting the lunches, isn't getting aid with their addictions, isn't getting a place to sleep. All of those, there's going to be a downstream domino effect that's actually going to be fairly astronomical. And we're going to see some pretty dire circumstances, I think, in our country that we're not used to seeing. I worry about that because it's we all do this work because we care. And those that we care are going to be underserved.
No, and I agree. And just like you're talking about, like, it's nonpartisan, like the work in nonprofits do, right? So it's just so interesting to me, like the fallout of this and how the country is going to step up, right? How people are going to step up because it is nonpartisan. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. Like, we're all affected by this. Everybody, whatever party you are, has probably benefited from a nonprofit in some way, or, you know what I mean? Like, or have given to a nonprofit, or have, been involved with being a part of one, like all of the things. Like, people care, no matter what they select and they put on what they vote for. You know what I mean? Like, people still care. So it is like, so you've joined forces with some other people, which is great as well, to have more collective power as well, and to have a voice and resources and all of that. So, we mentioned AFP, the Nonprofit Alliance, United Philanthropy. These are different organizations that you've come alongside with. So what are some of the advocacy that you all are doing together?
Well, it's more making sure that it's a couple of things. One is just helping our government representatives know how we feel about this. And I think I'll almost flip the switch on you and say, the call to action for any nonprofit or any individual on listening to this podcast is call your senator. Let them know how you feel. I'm not telling you what to feel, but call your senator if you have strong feelings about this. Voice your concerns. Look at the letters that we've written and pick the things that you align with, discard the ones that you don't. But I think it's really important that voices be heard. And I think it's that's why we're doing it, is if we don't do anything, things will change, and then we're going to complain about them. And we still have voice right now, and use your voice is really what I would say. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to be careful to stay in our, we are an advocate for donors, and we feel that this is bad for donors. Yeah. We're also an evaluator that knows what a good nonprofit is. And so we feel strongly that good nonprofits should thrive in this country. We're the only country in the world that's built a sector that is this strong, that takes up 10% of our workforce and actually 10% of our GDP. It's huge. And this is going to sound terrible, but it's one of the things that really makes America great. Let's preserve it. Let's make it stronger. We need it. We need the sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, and to your point, I think there are some countries that maybe it's not as strong, like, right, absolutely, right? Because maybe their federal government is stronger in supporting some of these areas as well, right? So it is like America has had that balance where, yes, it's a strong federal government, but compared to other countries, a lot of countries, it's not as big, right? So it is like this has been the way that we've balanced life, right? To have that,
Yeah.
to still have services available. So I think that's so important to see that too. And to be like, this is what makes it very unique, America very unique. So the ability to keep having nonprofits be such a strong sector is important, especially if you want to decrease federal government, then this sector actually needs to increase to help serve. So anyways, yeah. So
No, I think
yeah.
it's, I'm 100% with you because it's, we are not a socialist country. We're a capitalist
Mhm.
country and a
Yep.
democracy. And I think that's what makes us great. And that's what's beautiful about this. But we've also incorporated this safety net. And
Mhm.
let's be careful about, tearing holes in that safety net because it's necessary because not everyone is thriving right now. And we need
Right.
to help out where we can. We are human and we are humane in our humanity and we all care for each other in some way or form. And I
Mhm.
think it's worth keeping the institutions, strengthening them. I'm not saying we should be maintaining ineffective organizations. By all means, they should, should be easier to have them cease to exist.
Yeah.
But I do think an effective philanthropic and nonprofit sector is essential to our country's well-being.
Right, right, absolutely, and especially because there's. I know we talked about this in the green room a little bit, but there's
Mm.
really there's no like, okay, we're going to take this away because we have this in place for it. Right, right now it's just kind of like, oh, it's going to be gone, and I think that's what's causing a lot of fear too. Is like, well, what's the plan? Because these causes didn't disappear overnight. Like they still need to be supported. So if you're taking this away and now making this more difficult, like what's the plan, right, to support this work? So yeah.
The need hasn't changed. If anything, the need's gotten bigger, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's the
Exactly.
piece that's the transition part that I feel is missing. And there's a bit of a concern that sort of eliminating infrastructure that is providing life sustaining resources to parts of our population without a transition or a replacement plan, it's reckless. And I think it's going to
Yeah.
have it'll have consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for the work that you guys continue to do over there at Charity Navigator. I know it's a lot that you guys are doing and so good. Like so many solutions that you guys are being creative and innovative with as well. I love the fund. I love these funds that are coming out. Like that's amazing. I love thinking like, yeah, there's a lot of boomers right now that are retiring. Like, come on, like get your will done. It's free over there. And
Yep.
thinking about legacy for what you want to passed down, right? For generations to come, like for these different cause areas. So good. So where can people find you, Michael?
charitynavigator.org or www.charitynavigator.org. If you want to reach out to me, it's mthatcher@charitynavigator.org.
Awesome. And we will have all of those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. It's been a few years, I think. So this has been great to hear all the updates. And thank you so much again for everything you guys are doing for the nonprofits, for donors,
Yeah,
for the
thank you.
community. Yes. All right.
Thank
We'll
you,
see you
Holly.
soon.
Really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.